Lawyer husband exposes cheating wife's affair, wins in court, takes ultimate revenge, then disappears. Hey Reddit. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for over a decade. We met in law school, and while I went into family law, she pursued corporate litigation. We were the power couple, both ambitious, both driven, and to anyone on the outside, we had the perfect marriage. Our friends envied us, my colleagues admired us, and I genuinely believed we were solid. But as I would soon learn, I had been living a lie. It started with the small things, as these things always do. She became distant, her phone glued to her hand, but she'd never let me see the screen. Late nights at work turned into weekend trips for conferences, but she was always vague on the details. The intimacy faded, and while I chalked it up to stress, my gut told me something was wrong. I decided to trust my instincts. I had seen too many cases where the husband ignored the red flags until it was too late. I hired a private investigator, someone I had worked with in many cases before. I didn't tell him it was my wife he was investigating, I just gave him the details and let him do his job. The results came back faster than I expected, and they hit me harder than I was prepared for. Emily was having an affair. Not just with anyone, but with one of my own colleagues, a man I had mentored, trusted, and even invited into my home. His name was Daniel, and he was a younger attorney at my firm. He had always been ambitious, eager to learn, and I had taken him under my wing. The betrayal cut deeper than I could describe. The evidence was damning. Pictures of them together, hotel receipts, texts that left no doubt about what was happening. They weren't even careful. They assumed I was too blind to see it. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake was underestimating just how ruthless I could be when wronged. I didn't confront her right away. I knew better than that. Confrontation gives people time to come up with excuses, to twist the narrative. I needed to control the situation. I needed to make sure when I made my move, it was checkmate from the start. So I played the loving husband a little while longer, all while setting the stage for the downfall of the two people who had betrayed me. First, I gathered more evidence. If there's one thing I've learned from years in the courtroom, it's that you can never have too much proof. I had everything documented, from her late-night rendezvous to her whispered phone calls when she thought I wasn't around. I even managed to retrieve deleted messages from her phone using software a friend in cyber forensics provided me. The level of deception was staggering. Then, I planned my exit. Divorce in our state was a brutal battlefield, and I intended to win. We had a prenup, but it had loopholes I knew how to exploit. I set up a meeting with the best divorce attorney I knew, someone even better than me, and we strategized every move. I made sure to liquidate certain assets, move my finances into accounts she couldn't touch, and prepared to hit her where it hurt the most. The night before I filed, I set my final trap. I invited Daniel over for dinner, just like old times. Emily was hesitant, but I insisted, playing the role of the clueless husband one last time. I poured the wine, made a toast to friendship, and then casually dropped a folder onto the table. They looked at me, confused, until they opened it. Inside were the photos, the receipts, the messages. I watched as their faces turned from confusion to horror. Emily stammered, tried to explain, but I held up a hand. There was nothing she could say that would change what I knew. Daniel, the coward that he was, tried to apologize, but I wasn't interested. I calmly informed them that divorce papers were being filed the next morning, and that I had already ensured Emily would walk away with nothing. The prenup had a fidelity clause. Infidelity meant she forfeited any claim to my assets. Our house? Mine. The cars? Mine. Our savings? Mine. She had cheated herself out of everything. But I wasn't done. I turned to Daniel and let him know I had already spoken to the senior partners at our firm. He was done. Fired. His career in shambles. No firm worth anything would hire a man with a reputation for betraying a mentor. Emily broke down, sobbing, begging me to reconsider, but I had no sympathy left. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with them. I walked away, leaving them to sit in the ruins of their betrayal. The divorce process was swift, brutal, and entirely in my favor. She fought, of course. Tried to paint me as controlling, claimed I had neglected our marriage, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge saw through her lies. She got nothing. No alimony, no share of my assets. She had to move out of the house within a week. But revenge wasn't enough. Winning wasn't enough. I realized that this whole thing had drained me, that I no longer wanted to be in the same city, the same life, surrounded by memories of betrayal. So, after the divorce was finalized, I disappeared. I left behind everything that reminded me of the life I had with her. I resigned from my firm, sold the house, and cut ties with anyone who might try to bring me back into that world. I vanished, leaving only a few cryptic goodbye messages to those I still cared about. And just like that, I was gone. But the story doesn't end here. Because months later, I started getting messages. From Emily. From people who had heard rumors about what happened to her and Daniel. Things had taken an even darker turn, and what I discovered made me realize that my revenge had only been the beginning. Update. After I vanished from my old life, I thought I had put everything behind me. I changed my number, moved to a new city, and started fresh. No more reminders of my marriage, no more familiar faces, no more betrayal lingering in the air. But despite my best efforts, the past had a way of creeping back in. It started with an email, one I almost deleted without reading. The subject line was simple, Emily. Curiosity got the better of me. It was from an old mutual friend, someone who had been in our circle but had taken my side when everything fell apart. The email was short but packed with enough intrigue to make me hesitate. Apparently, Emily was in a downward spiral. After the divorce, she struggled financially. Losing everything had been a harsh wake-up call, and without my financial support, she was forced to downgrade her entire lifestyle. The house was gone, the cars repossessed, and she had to move into a small apartment, a far cry from the luxurious life she had once taken for granted. But that wasn't the worst part. Her career had taken a massive hit. Word got out about her affair, not just among our social circle, but within the professional world. The legal community is smaller than people think, and once her reputation was tarnished, finding work became nearly impossible. No top-tier firm wanted to associate with someone who had not only cheated but had been publicly humiliated in the process. She tried to freelance, but her client base dried up fast. And then there was Daniel. Their relationship had been doomed from the moment I exposed them. What started as an affair built on secrecy and excitement crumbled under the weight of reality. Without the thrill of sneaking around, they realized they had nothing in common. Arguments replaced passion, and resentment grew between them. Daniel, who had lost his job because of me, blamed her for everything. He struggled to find work as well, and the financial strain pushed them to the edge. I learned that it didn't take long for them to turn on each other. Emily had kicked him out of the tiny apartment they had been forced to move into. He, in turn, spread rumors about her, making sure everyone in their field knew she was a liability. They destroyed each other's chances at salvaging their careers. She had tried reaching out to me. That was the part that made me laugh the most. Desperate messages sent to my old number, emails that I never responded to, even an attempt to contact one of my old colleagues to see if they could get me to talk to her. She wanted forgiveness. She wanted help. She wanted me to undo the damage that she had brought upon herself. But I had no intention of getting involved. She had made her bed. Now, she had to lie in it. Another update. I thought that was the end of it. That Emily and Daniel had faded into obscurity, paying the price for their betrayal. But then, another message found its way to me, this time from an unexpected source. Daniel. At first, I was tempted to ignore it. What could he possibly have to say to me? An apology? A plea for mercy? But the subject line caught my attention. It simply said, "You need to see this." Against my better judgment, I opened it. The message was brief, almost panicked. He claimed that Emily had taken things too far. That she wasn't just struggling, she was unraveling. That she had been obsessed with finding me, and when she couldn't, she turned her anger toward him. He attached screenshots. Messages from Emily, filled with threats, accusations, and outright insanity. She blamed him for everything, claimed he had ruined her life, said he had tricked her into the affair. She had started stalking him, showing up at places she knew he would be, causing scenes, even vandalizing his car. And then, the part that made my blood run cold. He claimed she had been trying to track me down. That she had hired a private investigator, just like I had once done to her. She was obsessed with finding me, convinced that if she could just talk to me, she could fix everything. That she could convince me to come back, to undo the destruction. But there was nothing to fix. I had moved on. I had built a new life, one without her in it. The idea that she couldn't accept that she was so consumed by her downfall that she believed I was the key to reversing it, was disturbing. I debated what to do. I had no interest in ever seeing her again. But if she was truly unhinged, if she had reached the point where she was hiring people to find me, then I needed to be careful. So I did what I did best. I prepared. I contacted a few people I still trusted, made sure my digital footprint was minimal, and reinforced every precaution I had taken when I disappeared. If she was looking for me, she wouldn't find anything. And if she did, she wouldn't like what was waiting for her. Final update. It finally happened. Emily found me. I don't know how, I don't know who she used, but one evening, as I was walking home, I heard my name. And there she was, standing on the sidewalk, looking nothing like the woman I had once loved. She was a wreck. Her hair was a mess, her clothes were wrinkled, and her eyes were hollow. She looked desperate. I didn't say a word. I didn't acknowledge her. I just turned and walked away. She followed, pleading, crying, saying she just wanted to talk. That she needed me to listen. That she had lost everything, and I was the only one who understood her. I kept walking. She grabbed my arm, and that's when I stopped. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her for what she really was. A broken, selfish person who had destroyed her own life and wanted me to somehow fix it. I pulled my arm away and said the only thing that mattered. You did this to yourself. And then I walked away for good. She didn't follow. She just stood there, watching me disappear into the night, just like I had once disappeared from her life. And that was it. That was the last time I ever saw Emily. I don't know what happened to her after that. I don't care. She had her chance. She made her choices. And I made mine.